What's up, you guys? It's Henry here, and over the last several months, I've been constantly seeing posts and messages on our Facebook groups, on our comments, about people asking how to quote pricing to customers looking to get custom apparel done. Some of these questions are from people that are new to the industry and looking to get started, and others are from experienced embroiderers and decorators that are looking to get a second opinion. But literally not a single day goes by where I don't see someone commenting on these posts suggesting or recommending to someone to use the stitch count rule. And to be honest, every time I see that, I just cringe and a little part of me just dies inside because I know that newbies that are getting into the business are being misguided in the wrong direction. So in today's video, I'm going to break down for you why the stitch count rule is so bad, what are the different factors that actually go into pricing that you should consider, and what you should actually do instead. So with all that being said, let's jump into it. So first of all, for those of you that are new to this channel is dedicated to teaching you everything you need to know about the decorated apparel industry and helping you find success in this business. So if you're new here, make sure to smash that subscribe button and click that little bell icon so you get notified as soon as new videos are released. So to set the context for what I'm about to explain, you first need to understand what the stitch count rule is. Like I briefly mentioned before, the stitch count rule is basically a rule of thumb that tells you to charge X number of dollars per 1,000 stitches in your design. So for example, charging $1 per 1,000 stitches or charging $2 per 1,000 stitches in your design. And for a 10,000 stitch design, for example, you might charge $10 for that design to get it embroidered. Now, the stitch count rule seems to be a rule that a lot of people know about and a lot of people use in their business. And I think one of the reasons why it's so widespread and used by a lot of people is because it's so convenient, because it makes it very standardized in terms of the pricing for these items. But now that you know what the stitch count rule actually is, here's why it's so bad to use in your business. First of all, this rule is just a rule of thumb, and it was created a long time ago. But things have changed and people need to adapt in their businesses to changing time. In fact, the stitch count rule was probably used 10, 15, 20 years ago when it was a lot different in the embroidery and custom apparel world. And I think because it's been around for so long, people have continued to use it out of convenience rather than thinking about the accuracy in which it actually encompasses pricing for your items. The second reason why the stitch count rule is so bad to use is because not every stitch is created equal. For example, stitching on a t-shirt is going to be different than stitching on a cap. Various items can also be difficult to hoop, and therefore it's going to take longer to embroider that items versus something simple. So just going based off a simple, flat stitch count rule doesn't really take into account all these complexities and variations in your design, and that could be drastically underpricing your services when you use simply that rule. And if you keep on underpricing over a long period of time, you essentially end up working for free or even start losing money in your business. So with all that being said, the natural next question that you might have is, what should I do instead? But before I jump into that, I want to mention that every business is different, and that's why there's no cookie cutter approach to determining pricing. Because the cost of your machinery might be different, the cost of your overhead might be different, or you might have a storefront versus someone that doesn't have a storefront and working out of their garage. All of these different factors is why the one-size-fits-all stitch count rule is not going to capture the full picture. I mean, I've literally seen businesses get destroyed and go out of business by following the stitch count rule because of how it underprices everything. Now, granted, that might not have been the only reason that they go out of business, but imagine if they had used something else other than the stitch count rule that's not underpricing everything constantly, and with that higher profit margin, they might have been able to change things around or even support their businesses longer with that higher profit margin. With underpricing your services, the more you sell, the more squeezed your margin is going to get. That's because the more you sell, the more scaling costs you have. For example, dealing with customer service, having to have infrastructure or a storefront or different types of overhead costs that you might not otherwise incur if you don't sell as much. Because you either start losing money or you make so little that it's not worth it anymore and you just give up and close down. So if the stitch count rule is not something that you should be using and every business has a different cost structure, we still need some sort of guidance or standard to determine your pricing, right? Because you still need somewhere to start to determine how to price your services. And that's precisely why I've been telling everyone to price based on time. Here are several reasons why pricing based on time is so effective. Number one, time is a common factor across all apparel decoration. Second, it doesn't consider every stitch being created equal, but instead takes into account the complexity of various jobs. But most importantly, time is what you're being compensated on. I mean, think about it, right? You're doing all these custom apparel orders and taking the time to do it, and in return, you get compensated for that time that you spent. So naturally, pricing based off of the time that it takes directly correlates with your compensation and what you're getting paid for to do that job. So how does this time-based formula actually work? First and foremost, you need to determine what your hourly target profit will be. For example, you might say that, hey, I want to be able to profit or make $50 per hour for doing this work. This target profit per hour can change based on your circumstance, and it can go higher if you want to make more on an hourly basis, or you can be more competitive and go more aggressive by lowering your target per hour. So now that you determine your target profit per hour depending on your circumstance, the next step is to figure out how many items you can produce in that given hour. Let's give a very simple example. Say you're embroidering on t-shirts for a client and they gave you their design. And say it's a very simple design that you can do rather quickly, so between the setup time and actually embroidering it and cleaning it up, it'll take you 10 minutes to do per t-shirt. Let's just keep the math simple. So within a given hour, you can embroider 6 of those shirts. Now that you know that you can embroider 6 of those shirts in one given hour, and you know, say your target profit per hour is $60, you just divide the two and find out what profit you need to make on each t-shirt to hit your hourly target. So in this case, I would take $60 per hour divided by the number of t-shirts that I can make in that 1 hour, which is 6, and arrive at a $10 of profit per t-shirt that I need to make in order to hit that $60 per hour target. So with those 2 steps out of the way, now we're almost there in determining what price you should be quoting your client for that t-shirt. So now that you know that you need to make $10 of profit on that one t-shirt, the last step is really just to figure out what the cost of the blank t-shirt is. Let's say that at wholesale, the blank t-shirt costs you $3. You can add a little bit of profit margin on top of that $3 of apparel cost and pass it on to the customer. So say $5 per t-shirt. You simply add the $5 onto the $10 of profit that you need to make and charge $15 for that t-shirt. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive and perhaps not make a margin on the blank t-shirt that you had to purchase, you simply just add on the cost of the t-shirt, which in this case is $3, and you would just charge $13 for the t-shirt. So I hope that all makes sense. It basically starts out with a target profit per hour that you want to make, and then you determine how many items you can produce in one given hour, you divide the two, and then you just add on your blank apparel cost that you had to go out of pocket for when purchasing that item to embroider for the client. Again, the reason why this time-based formula is so much more powerful than the stitch count rule is because it really takes into account the complexity of the job that you're doing. More complex jobs are going to take longer, and therefore you should be compensated more for that time. So if all that seemed a little bit complicated, you can either go back and rewatch what I just mentioned, or you can actually check out a free resource that we've created called the Profit Calculator. The Profit Calculator is basically a tool that you can plug and play different numbers so you can see what kind of profit potential you have for a given job, or what kind of annual income or annual profit you can make in your embroidery business. It also gives you some pricing guidance depending on the type of item that you're doing, the speed you're running the machine at, how long it takes to do certain jobs, etc., so you can really play around with all the numbers and see this in action. When you get good at using this time-based framework to price your items and become more experienced by doing more and more jobs, you'll really know more or less how long it'll take you to embroider or decorate certain items. Like right away, if someone gives you a design, you can pretty much know how long that'll take given the complexity both of the design and on the garment that you're embroidering on. That's going to come with time and more experience, but the better you get at this, the faster you'll be able to quote customers because you'll have a general sense and range in terms of the time that it'll take you to do that item. This framework will also help you price things much more accurately so that it actually compensates you for your efforts. All right, you guys, that's it for us for today, and I hope you found this content and this formula helpful, and I hope you implement it in your embroidery business. Really, my goal is to spread this knowledge, and hopefully I see fewer and fewer of these posts and comments of people spreading the stitch count rule that's very much outdated. So whether you're just someone new looking to get started in this business, or you've been in business for 20 years and have just been using this stitch count rule out of convenience, I hope that you have a change in mindset after watching this video and implement this more accurate and powerful formula in your business. All right, before we go, I want to remind you guys, if you enjoy content like this, make sure to smash that like button. It will greatly help out this channel and let us know that you like this type of content. Also, I want to remind you guys to join our free Facebook group, Embroidery and Custom Apparel Mastery. I put the link to the group down below where you can join and interact with tens of thousands of embroiderers and custom apparel decorators so they can share their tips and tricks in this business. Last but not least, make sure to follow us on all our social channels down below. We're pretty active on Instagram, we post there daily, and we're pretty active on TikTok as well with some entertaining stuff, so check us out there. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.